I want to make Chrome Music Labs in Minecraft. Why? Because it's cool and Redstone is fun. No, but really, Minecraft offers some really cool sounds with its note block, and being able to make music on a machine that I made just adds another layer of originality to everything. This project has taken tens of hours, going from just a basic concept to a fully fleshed out mini machine. But before we talk about that, you're probably wondering, how did we get here? To clarify, when I'm talking about Chrome Music Labs, I'm talking specifically about the Song Maker feature. So, what is Chrome Music Labs? Well, for those of you who don't know, Chrome Music Labs is a website on which you can make music. It is mostly for beginners, but anybody who's watched my channel before probably knows that I like to, well, let's just say push it to its limits. Chrome Music Labs, which I'm just going to call CML from now on, is characterized by a few main things. Firstly, it's split into a grid where you can place notes. Secondly, there is a play button which will play the song that you just made. Finally, there are options to change between instruments, drums and tempo. Oh, and there's also settings, but we don't need to get into that. Definitely not because I already made a video explaining the basics to CML or anything. Link is down in the description. And that's about all there is to CML. Now it's time to get into the fun stuff. The concept was simple. I knew that I wanted to have a 2D array with each point in the 2D array being a note block. The x-axis would be the length of the song and the y-axis would be the pitch. I wanted to have it so you could activate any note along this line so that when you played the song, that note would play at the right time and be the right pitch. If possible, I also wanted each note to play a sound when selected. This would be the same pitch that plays when the note is played in the song. That's just a fancy way of saying that I wanted an activation sound. Finally, there would need to be a play button. This would be the simplest part. It would be connected to a circuit that would attempt to play every note block, and only the notes that are activated would actually sound. So now that we have the basic idea, it's time to put it into Redstone form. Redstone. Just kidding, I'm already a fully certified and professional redstoner. Kind of. The first and most important thing to figure out before we can make any other part of the machine is the note block activation system. My first idea was to power the note block continuously until the player switches on this lever, which will depower the note block. You see, note blocks have to be unpowered in order for them to make a sound when powered again. So if this redstone torch is powering this note block, the note block won't make a sound when powered by this redstone repeater. However, if we deactivate the redstone torch, the note block is no longer being powered, and so will be able to be powered by the repeater. I like to call this locking the note block. A benefit to this circuit is that we already have the activation sound built in with this redstone torch, although it plays when the note block is deactivated and not when it's activated. To solve this, I put another note block beside this redstone that will be powered whenever this repeater is powered. Now we can scale it up and test it. As we discussed earlier, each layer going up will go up in pitch, and each layer going to the right will be played later and later. We can just put in a song, and there we go. The notes all play at the right pitch and at the right time. Although this is really cool, there is one massive problem. It's huge. In fact, it takes up 6 times more surface space than it needs to. This means that you have to be very close to it in order to hear all the notes. You may have even noticed that when we played the song, the notes further on were quieter than the initial notes. If we can make each module one by one, rather than 3 by 2, it would save so much space. And so I got to work designing the next version. I decided to completely redesign the machine, this time making use of sticky pistons and observers. This time I wanted to move a solid block on top of the note block, which would silence it. This works because a note block can't play when it has a solid block above it. The design was fairly simple, however it made a huge impact on the size of the machine. It was now tiny in comparison to the first one. As well as this, the method we're using now is way more clean and elegant than the first design. Another change that I made with this iteration was the use of a texture pack. You see, with this new 1x1 design, redstone lamps could no longer be used to indicate the state of a module. This is because a directly powered redstone lamp will also power redstone lamps directly next to it. We can't put a block between the redstone lamp and the lever because that will block the view of the lamp. We also can't power it from the side like this because we want each module to be 1x1. In order to fix all of this, I changed the texture of a lever to show either an on or an off redstone lamp texture, depending on the state of the lever. So you can see that all these redstone lamps are actually just a bunch of retextured levers. This mini machine is actually starting to look like Chrome Music Labs, and I'm so proud of how compact it is. As far as I'm aware, it's the smallest design of its kind. And on that note, I think it's time to test the machine again with the newly designed notebook modules. You can turn individual notes on and off, and you can play the song which activates all the notes that are on. However, there is another fatal flaw with this. You can't hear the sound that you are playing when you select a note. This makes music production with this machine almost impossible, as you have to keep playing the song to make sure that you are getting the notes correct. As the song gets longer and longer, this becomes less and less viable. This left me with no other choice but to redesign this again. After several hours of work, I came up with this next design. It's fairly similar to the last version, however there is one major difference. Instead of placing a solid block on top of the note block in order to silence it, and then removing it when we wanted that note to sound, this version moves the note block to the power source. This source can then be retracted and then re-extended whenever the song is played. The note blocks that are on top of the power source will be played, and those that are a block above it will not. I was super happy with this design as it fixed the problem with not being able to hear what note is being selected when the module is activated. In this iteration, the note block activates whenever it is placed on top of the power source. However, yet again, there was a problem with this design. If you want to change the sound of a note block, you can replace the block beneath it. Different types of blocks give a different sound. So a wool sound turns a note block into a guitar instrument, and a sand block turns a note block into a snare instrument. The problem is that the instrument could not be changed due to the block below the note block having to be a redstone block. This meant that I had to go into Minecraft's files and manually change the note block sound when I wanted a different instrument. Part of me felt that that was kind of cheating, so yet again, I went back to the drawing board. In this final step, I actually made 2 more iterations. These 2 took the longest out of all of them. One of these is smaller with the disadvantage of not being able to play the correct instrument when activated. This is due to having no space to place a block to change the note block's instrument. The second of these is bigger. However, the activation sound can be changed. Both of these feature 2 separate note blocks. One is used for the activation sound, and the other is used for the sound played when the song is activated. I'm not going to try and explain how these work because they're really complicated, but if you want to figure them out by yourself, you can pause the video here and just take a look. Finally, let's scale this up one more time and go to the showcase.